Hello, my name is Devon Jones, and I was wanting to talk a little bit about science and how it does and does not relate to the theory of evolution. Biologically, anatomically, um, geologically, you have in pretty much every arena of science, you have some form of evolutionary interpolation, some type of a throw-in where they're going to say this is where evolution fits in to geology, and this is where it fits into biology, and this is where it fits into anatomy, astrology, whatever it is. And I was wanting to briefly, point out the fact that, evolution is indeed still a theory. Okay, in order to be considered, even to be considered a theory, okay, it has to go through certain steps, as does any scientific fact. You make an observation. The floor is green, for example. Um, you make the observation, and in order to explain, the world around you, the realm of science says, or after you've made your observation, you then need to go in and you need to make a hypothesis or your personal educated guess as to why the floor is green. Okay, now to make a hypothesis or an explanation as to why the floor is green, I might say the kids were playing in the dining room and spilled green dye all over the floor. And when they spilled dye all over the floor, the wind opened up the kitchen door, and the wind blew across the floor and just smeared the dye across the entire floor in a nice, neat, orderly fashion. And that's why we have green carpet. Okay, more power to you if you believe that. Okay, but it's a hypothesis nonetheless. It's an educated guess. Then you take your hypothesis, your educated guess, and in order to make it a theory, you need to have experimentation. In other words, you need to intentionally spill green dye on the floor, open the window, and see if the wind does exactly that, or if different results are obtained by the same process. In other words, when you open the window, is the green dye evenly covered across the entire floor, or does it just go in one direction and just stay there? You know, you, this theory of evolution has not even undergone valid experimentation to become a theory, much less being taught as a fact as it is in our public schools today, which concerns me. And it's being infiltrated into geology, anatomy, biology, astronomy, and all of these other realms of science, and we're kind of jumping the gun, as it were. And I just want to say, hold on, step back. It is still a theory, okay? And I'd like to also mention um, life, life itself, which falls under the heading of biology, certainly. But when you say this is a life form, this is a living creature, all right, you're saying that it follows four criteria for life. Okay, there are four things that you can say this is a living cell. There are four things that it needs to go by. All right, these four things include: number one, it needs to be able to reproduce. The very first creature should have had to have the capacity to reproduce. The second thing is it needs to be able to sense changes in its environment and respond to those changes. This again would have to be present in the very first life form, otherwise it's not life. It's not a living organism, it's not a living cell. Okay, this also has to be present from the very first organism. Thirdly, it has to have DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. It has to produce and maintain DNA. DNA in itself is the most complex molecule on Earth, and it would have to be present from the very first life form, again, or it's not a living molecule. Fourthly, finally, last but not least, the creature needs to be able to take in energy from its surroundings and convert it to energy which helps it to live. Um, this, this, of course, is very important for any life form to be considered life, because this is the sustaining factor of that life form. It's what keeps that life form alive. And we tend to oversimplify pretty much every realm of science, and particularly the theory of evolution and how it does and does not apply to so many different things. And if you just take those four criteria for life, and analyze it and say, look, this is not possible. You know, it's been estimated that the possibility of one cell happening by chance is around 1 times 10 to the 119,000th power against 1. That's the possibility of one cell happening by chance. Okay? That's the possibility of 364,000 guys all playing cards, and every single one of them gets a royal flush. It's just not possible. It can't happen. Okay? The argument that if you flip 25 pennies in a row and after millions and millions of tries it's certain to happen one time, that does not apply. Okay? We're talking a mathematical improbability to such an extent where it cannot happen. Okay? There are such ridiculous mathematical odds stacked up against the theory, if you want to call it that, the theory of evolution. The mathematical odds are so not in favor of this theory, it's not even funny. And to have scientists, scholars of the profession of science, to stand behind their little pulpits and to tell you that the theory of evolution is not only a valid hypothesis, even an educated guess, but has undergone enough experimentation to be considered a theory, and then without even telling you its flaws, they teach it to you as fact, which is the equivalent to a scientific law. That's ridiculous. If you want a scientific law, I'll give you a scientific law. There was one scientific law called the law of biogenesis. That law has undergone hypothesis, experimentation, theses, relevant data collection over a long period of time, and it is a law. And this law of biogenesis tells you that life can only come from life. Life is only going to come from living material. Life did not crawl up out of a prebiotic soup, 4.5 billion years ago, and then start, improving. And that's another thing. That's another thing in evolution that contradicts law. Scientific law is improvement over time. The second law of thermodynamics says that things do not climb uphill over time. They climb downhill. And, I realize I'm running out of time. I think I only have 10 minutes YouTube clipping, But I just wanted to throw it out there. Look, evolution and science disagree. Okay, it's not the Bible and science that disagrees. It's evolution and science. They disagree. All right? And, I want to encourage you to read some books on the topic. There's a good book called Unlocking the Mysteries of Creation by Dr. Dennis R. Peterson. It's a great book, Unlocking the Mysteries of Creation. Definitely get that. Another thing, look up Dr. Kent Hovind. He's got some great seminar series out there. Definitely don't pass up that guy. He's probably the smartest guy out there on the topic. Dr. Kent Hovind. Brilliant mind. Ken Ham, Gary Parker. There's brilliant scientists out there that are, that are well equipped in their science, and yet still believe the Bible. And you can believe the science and still believe the Bible, without having to twist scripture to fit your ideologies of science, like with the gap theory, progressive creation, etc. But just, definitely look into this. Creation science, it's worth looking into. And it's definitely makes a lot more sense